or in a flat enclosed reality, these levels of antipathy don't really make sense. Okay, you can have a warring faction, greed, and steering mass groups of people, but mass genocide and DNA mutation, killing people for money, this doesn't work as well in an enclosed reality as it does if there are other lands. Let me elaborate a little bit. If there are 20 lands or so, throwing a few billion people to the sword at land C23, for instance, for experiments, seems much more likely. Why would anyone be okay killing billions of people if everyone is in the same realm? This is more of an irrational leap. This crazy level of antipathy works more rationally if the ruling and orders are coming from another land. Why dirty one's own doorstep? This might need some contemplation to fully understand, and it's only conjecture for making a point that's not yet been made. But these crazy levels of antipathy just don't fully work in an enclosed system. Let's digress again and look at the money. Let's follow the missing money. Banks are basically thieves. The bigger the bank, the more theft. We also had missing gold during the 9/11 hoax.
How can we seriously consider a $50 billion increase in the defense budget when DOD's own auditors say the department cannot account for $2.3 trillion in transactions in 1 year alone?
I doubt, to be honest, that people inside the department are going to be capable of sorting this out. I have a feeling it's going to take some folks from outside to come in and look at this and put in place a process that over a period, and I regret to say, but I've seen how long things take, I think it's going to take a period of years to sort it out, and I think it'll probably take the cooperation of the Congress to try to get the system so that you can actually manage the financial aspects of that institution rather than simply report on things that have happened.
It's a terrible record, and it's preposterous that the Defense Department doesn't know what's happened to this money.
Well, I have a copy of the Inspector General Act here in front of me, and it says, among other things, that it's your responsibility to conduct and supervise audits and investigations relating to the programs and operations of your agency.
That's correct.
So I'm asking you if your agency has, in fact, according to Bloomberg, extended $9 trillion in credit, which, by the way, works out to $30,000 for every single man, woman, and child in this country. I'd like to know, if you're not responsible for investigating that, who is?
We have responsibility for the Federal Reserve's programs and operations, audits, to conduct audits and investigations in that area. In terms of who's responsible for investigating, would you mind repeating the question one more time?
My time is up, but I have to tell you honestly, I am shocked to find out that nobody at the Federal Reserve, including the Inspector General, is keeping track of this.
But since Obama got in with his Wall Street mates, there was a tight lid put on the Fed and the Pentagon, so nobody knows how much has gone missing in recent years, but I'm pretty sure the trillions are being siphoned away from honest human beings. NASA have a budget of $19.5 billion a year, so let's say only about $50 million is spent on Photoshop, Facebook, YouTube, actors, and fake launches. So that leaves, well, $19.45 billion, pretty much all of it. And this recent footage from SpaceX could only have cost about $5,000 or so, as they didn't even film the landing. Just check this out and look at the levels of mind control that are going on.
It looks like we may not have a continuous video feed from the drone ship right now. Like we said, this is expected. We don't currently have direct line of sight with that drone ship. We only have a satellite link, and as it gets down kind of close, that Merlin engine can vibrate the satellite link. And sometimes we can lose video. So just stay put here. We're going to let you know.
Okay, so let's say the elite have 10 or so trillion stashed. A 500-person elite can only buy so many houses, boats, jets, cars and whores. That would only come to a few hundred billion or so. You only need a few billion to look after your offspring, family and legacy for generations. So you can't actually spend those trillions here. It's not possible. So what is happening to it? You couldn't spend it all at the ice wall either. These big clues of maps, antipathy and missing trillions lend much support to there being other lands. Trillions can only be spent on one of a few things: colonising other lands, building on other lands, projects on other lands, or it's being harvested by other lands. In that, I mean turning your energy from your work into items and projects that you will never see, far, far away, to a different elite. Sounds pretty crazy, huh? Or so does a spinning ball in a vacuum. Let's wildly digress again and point out that in our known realm there is a massive restriction of movement, and it's happened so slowly over time that most people don't really think about it or contemplate it. Passports are hard to get for many people, and virtually impossible to get for hundreds of millions of people in, say, Cuba, India, Guatemala. They can also be expensive, and they now even contain RFID tracking microchips. Most nations need temporary visas to visit, requiring much strict paperwork in the application phase. So why do you think the collective consciousness is being put into a state of movement restriction? Well, if there are other hidden lands, and if it's hard to move about, and travel is insanely regulated and controlled, it's much less likely people will be exploring where they shouldn't. Recent movies lend themselves to other lands too, such as Maze Runner, Moana, and Room. Maybe the scores of YouTube channels all screaming it's the Jews, it's the Jesuits, it's the Masons are each only partly correct. Maybe it's some other group on another land. If we are just on land C22, on a plane of many lands, it makes it easier to just experiment with it, easier to harvest it. Chemtrails are a massive black project. It must cost them a few billion. What if they are actually blocking the sun to stop the ice melting, to stop us knowing about other lands? Our realm is cyclic, so maybe the sun slowly gets cooler, creating an ice age, and then slowly gets hotter, melting the ice wall, melting the ice that covers land in the north. For me, these falls in the south are not cartoons or CGI, and I don't believe in the UN's version of global warming. So what is going on? Why the old maps? Why the insane levels of antipathy? Why missing trillions of dollars? Why the restriction of movement? Why the chemtrails blocking the sun? Why strangeness in the southern ice area? Maybe, just maybe, other lands answers these relevant questions.